what pedals will Frusciante use now in 2021 and moving forward? Well, that is a question I have gotten, and I thought I would dedicate this very video to both elaborate on my opinion on it, but most importantly also share some sources that is actually already available out there. But before we start, I just want to have this disclaimer that I'm aware that this is a super nerdy topic like all my other videos, but my goal isn't to be 100% correct on this, but rather I just enjoy the process of investigating this and sharing my findings and also discuss it with you in the comments. But anyway, the first source that I believe most of you are aware of is the private venue show at Beverly Hills, California, USA, the 8th of February 2020. And there we got a lot of images and videos where his board was in the frame, but of course it wasn't in focus of any of the frames, so what we got is still these super zoomed in and pixelated images of his board. You know, we thought in 2021 we will finally get these high resolution images of his board, but now here we are still working with these super pixelated images. But anyway, what I believe we see on the top there is the classic Boss CE1 chorus pedal, which I have made a video calling the most important Frusciante pedal, which you can check out in case you're interested in that. And then to the left there we seem to have the classic Mxr mic ramp, which he has used a lot over the years. And I do believe it is this pedal because size-wise it seems to fit the proportions of the Boss pedal that I believe is next to it in the picture. And you know, I made my own comparison here for reference. And interestingly, the Boss pedal doesn't have that orange color that we are also familiar with, you know, the DS2, but instead it has this yellow nuance to it, which makes me believe it's a Boss overdrive pedal like the SD1 or the OD3. And the shock here is that we have the exotic XW1 wah pedal in red limited edition version, because over the years John has pretty much always used the Ibanez wah pedal. And to the right it seems like he has the very classic Electro Harmonix Holy Grail reverb, which he has used a lot over the years. And then we also see the super white Boss pedal without any knobs, which makes me believe it is the Boss chromatic tuner pedal. And then these pedals are connected to a silver Jubilee. So overall he uses a very minimalistic and classic setup, with the notable exception of the Boss overdrive pedal and the exotic wah. And when it comes to the Boss pedal, that isn't that big of a shock to me actually, because over the years John has played a lot with a lot of different pedals for his solo sound, most notably with a lot of different fuzz pedals. But I kind of think it makes sense that he wants to experiment with new ways to create his solo tone. But another theory could obviously be that he went into a music shop and looked for DS2, didn't find one, and figured a Boss overdrive pedal would work as a substitute. The biggest shock to me here is the exotic wah pedal, since John has pretty much always used the Ibanez wah. And again, the same theory can apply here, that maybe he didn't find the Ibanez wah and improvised by using the exotic wah instead. But at the same time, Ibanez has now done this reissue, so it should be relatively easy to access. But I think this concern kind of gets resolved in a Chad Smith story where Chad shares his snares. And I find this story from the 18th of November in 2020 quite funny, where for a very, very brief moment we get this super blurry shot of supposedly John's pedalboard. And of course us Frusciante nerds start to analyze this little clip frame by frame and try to guess what pedals we see there. And I like to thank JFFX for re-uploading this on YouTube so we can all access this video. And also Bruno Portugal for helping decoding, if you will, these images and suggest what pedals we see. And the first thing to point out here is that the exotic wah is gone and it is replaced with an Ibanez wah pedal. So yeah, that makes me believe that the exotic wah perhaps was an improvisation rather than a deliberate choice. And also worth noting is that the Ibanez is in black version, so either the vintage black one, the version 1, or this new reissue, the version 3, but it's quite hard to tell, I think. And also a very interesting observation is that we clearly see the Boss DS2 again, and the mic ramp seems to still be there from the private show. And another interesting observation is that we still seem to see that yellow Boss pedal that we saw in the private show. So that, unlike the exotic wah, makes me believe it was actually a deliberate choice to use that pedal and not just a temporary DS2 substitute. And I think that theory is supported by the fact that it is suggested that we also see the TC electronic Mojo pedal, which I could never have guessed myself, to be honest. But that is also an overdrive pedal. So yeah, if I'm just speculating freely, perhaps that could be a sign that he is experimenting with different overdrive pedals to perhaps innovate his solo sound or something like that. And then we see this off-white or kind of grayish white Boss pedal. And there are a lot of pedals that have that appearance, like the auto bar pedal or the digital delay that I have here, or the noise suppressor. or the equalizer, or maybe even the fuzz that he actually used in the past. But I do feel like the color nuance of the fuzz pedal doesn't really match what we see in the images. And just based on the images, I kind of think it looks mostly like the noise suppressor, because it looks like we have white knobs in the images, and this is the only white pedal, or off-white pedal if you will, with white knobs. But at the same time, my gut feeling tells me that this isn't a pedal that John necessarily would use. So here I'm extra curious what your opinion are on this topic. And finally we see this red pedal, which possibly could be the Mxr Dynacomp, you know, that compressor that I believe John used in the 90s on the BSSM album. And it looks quite narrow in the image, so perhaps it could be the nano version. But it also looks like there's only one knob in the image, but at the same time we don't have that many pictures to work with, so that might be the reason why it to me looks like one knob. But anyway, now we have made a detailed analysis of these images that we have gotten of his board. But in order to get a sense of how the board could evolve over time, I think we need to step back a little bit and analyze what John's vision is with the band moving forward. And we actually got 2 interviews from 2020 where he elaborates on this topic quite well. And I will play some short sound bites from these 2 interviews now.
And rock music being something that to my ear has been like dying for quite a while and is really like taking its last breaths right now. It seemed like an interesting challenge to try to make good rock music that's some ideas that people haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds that in 2021 or whenever there is a new Red Hot Chili Peppers record that there's like breakbeats and rave synths and stuff on there, John? Can you get them in there, or you gonna try and keep them separate?
I'm sure I could if I wanted to, but that wasn't the idea. Like in the Chili Peppers, what I found exciting when I started playing with them, and I still am finding it exciting, is to just see what I can do with a guitar. So it was that idea of just how many different worlds you can pull out of a Stratocaster. Like other records, I would use multiple guitars. I'm really, so far in the studio, I've done everything that I've been doing on one guitar and just trying to make that guitar speak in different ways, say something different in every tune. And it's just it's a musical challenge of sorts.
I feel like a lot of people are open to the idea that pretty much anything could happen with the band now. You know, like the idea that John would start to add these things that he has learned from electronic music. But here, at least my interpretation is that he will limit himself to the tools of rock music, which is, you know, guitar, pedals and amp. And then with these limited tools, use his creativity to create something new and fresh for the rock genre. And that was the sources that I was aware of, so I also asked on Instagram for any advice on any other sources that perhaps I had missed. And I got a really interesting source from Alex on Instagram, which knows a lot about Frusciante's sound anyway, so I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description in case you're interested. And what I learned there was that Fulltone had announced that John had bought the classic TTE, the Tube Tape Echo, which is an echo pedal that uses physical tape to create its effect, which is quite cool, but also quite expensive. And another interesting detail there is that John was the first one to get the version with a blue jewel, and that all the following units would have that same design. And yeah, I don't really think John would start to use this on his live board, but I think that this is a sign that he plays a lot with cool analog gear in the studio, like he has done in the past too, you know, most famously on the Delhi, California effects. So my conclusion on this topic is that I believe that John will use a lot of the classic pedals that he has always used throughout the years, and that he will add new pedals to his board that are like within the same genre as his previous pedals. For example, like we saw here, experimenting with overdrive pedals, and perhaps also trying out some experimental pedals like he did in the past, you know, with the Mxr Focus and the whammy bar that he actually added at the end before leaving the band the second time. And now I'm really curious what your opinion are on this topic. You know, everything from details like what was that white boss pedal that we saw in Chad's story to, you know, your overall opinion of how you think he will move forward with his board and how it will develop. And also, if you have any sources that I didn't bring up in this video, it would be really interesting to hear about. And with that said, thank you very much for watching. And also, something I haven't said that much is please leave a like on this video if you liked it, for the algorithm. It seems like a silly thing, but it really helps me to reach out to more people, which helps me to improve what I do here on the channel, which hopefully makes these videos more enjoyable to watch. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.